Hello, my name's Michael Chambers, IELTS trainer from the UK, and today's presentation is about planning an IELTS Task 2 question. You'll be hearing a lot about how to analyse correctly and write good quality content for a Task 2 question to help you reach Band 7 level. So let's start the presentation. Who am I? Well, I'm an IELTS specialist trainer from the UK. I obtained a Band 9 IELTS academic result in January of last year. In 2014 I started working as a CELTA certified teacher of English as a foreign language, specialising mainly in IELTS and business English. That's my email address. You can meet me live on Skype, Zoom, QQ or Facebook. Here's my Facebook page. I have over 8,000 followers for IELTS writing tips. You can see my Band 9 certificate there. You can also see model task 2 essays, task 1 responses, academic and general, tips and feedback. There's my LinkedIn profile, includes some student reviews. I offer written grading and detailed feedback, and you can see a sample of that here, and that link is on my Facebook page. This is a forum where I obtain quite a lot of work, italki.com or italki.com. So far I've taught over 4,000 lessons through this forum, and my certificate for my IELTS is also on there. Alright, there's a couple of candidate reviews from happy clients. So let's go into this lesson. What is the aim of this lesson? We're going to analyse and plan a general training task 2 on advantages and disadvantages. But you will receive tips and advice for all question types, and both general and academic candidates will learn equally. You'll hear about the task requirements and how to understand them and notice them. I will give you a recommended structure. I will explain how you can fulfill the examiner's criteria for Band 7 by following my suggestions, and I will present a model main point with supporting points which we will then analyse. Here is the question. There is an increasing trend around the world to have a small family rather than a large family. What are some of the advantages and disadvantages of having a small family rather than a large family? If you're an academic candidate, like I said, this PowerPoint will help you with a wide range of skills, but you won't see that kind of wording in a question. It no longer appears in the academic test. What you might see are questions like this. To what extent do the advantages of having a small family outweigh the disadvantages? Or do the advantages of having a small family outweigh the disadvantages? So these outweigh question types, you need to plan them and write them in a different way. The approach to our question is similar to this possible academic one. What are the problems associated with having a small family rather than a large one? How can these problems be tackled? So this is a problem solution question. But it's comparable to an advantages and disadvantages question. Okay, going back to our question. Increasing trend, small family rather than a large one. Advantages and disadvantages of having a small family rather than a large one. So what are the requirements of this question? We need to write about 3 things. Some of the advantages and disadvantages. So that's at least 2 advantages and at least 2 disadvantages. But there's something else we also need to cover, of having a small family rather than a large family. So this is a comparison question as well. We need to compare having a small family against having a large family. However, the focus is more on the small family. How do we know about this focus? Well, the background sentence tells us there's an increasing trend towards having a small family. So there's a greater focus on small family. So it seems like there's a lot to cover. I mean, how can we write 4 main points, 2 advantages, 2 disadvantages, each with supporting points, and include a comparison for each advantage or disadvantage with a large family. It seems like a big job, but there is a good solution. So here's my suggested essay structure. We start with an introduction. Body paragraph 1 deals with the advantages number 1 and advantage number 2. Body paragraph 2, disadvantage 1, disadvantage 2. We could have the reverse order, and the conclusion. Okay, so 4 paragraphs, introduction, 2 body paragraphs, conclusion. First body paragraph, advantages, second body paragraph, disadvantages, or the other way around. Let's look at a structure for one body paragraph, BP1, body paragraph 1. So the topic, advantages. Main point 1, introduce advantage number 1 for a small family. Then 1 or 2 support points, explain example reason for a small family. Then we need to compare an extra support point with a brief contrast with a large family. That's 3, at least 2 supporting points plus the main point. In main point 2, we introduce advantage 2, and we can have exactly the same structure as main point 1. Main point, 1 or 2 supporting points, third supporting point with the contrast. Okay. And remember to include an example for each main point. This is a requirement for TA for task achievement 7. If you don't do it, you can't get task achievement 7. It's that simple. So here is my model main point with supporting points. One advantage of having a small family is that parents are more able to give each child plenty of individual attention. For example, they might play games with them or read books, which as a result can help them to feel special and more emotionally secure. In contrast, parents of more than, say, 2 children are less likely to have enough time to regularly do these things. Let's have a look at this main point 1. I introduced an advantage of having a small family. I talked about individual attention, and this answered the question directly. We have an advantage. I extended this point, in my case, with 3 supporting points. An example, a consequence, and then the contrast with large families. Again, this answers the question directly rather than a large family. It's now clear that our main point can't be true of both small and large families. If I was silent on this contrast, then we could decide that it's true of both large and small families, and we wouldn't be answering the question. Note the use of cohesive devices. This, which referred back to a previous idea, as a result, to introduce a consequence, for example, to introduce an example, in contrast, which, relative pronoun, and these things, referring back to previous idea. So we had simple but relevant ideas. Here's an example. Parents are more able to give each child plenty of individual attention. We had some simple grammatical structures. They might play games with them. But we also had some complex grammatical structures, which as a result can help them to feel. So we've got a relative clause, we've got a verb plus infinitive construction here, and a modal can. So 2 clauses are enough for a complex sentence. I do often see very complex sentences from students. It's not necessary and it has a lot of dangers. We don't need a lot of advanced grammatical structures for band 7, third conditionals, dramatic inversion. There's a big risk for students aiming for band 7 that this focus can distract them from answering the question correctly and developing their answers. We had some simple vocabulary. For example, include, help, do these things. People might think, do these things, that's just too simple. But it's not in a wider context, because we have some more complex vocabulary, specifically collocations. Collocations are words which naturally go together. So we've got here individual attention, feel special, emotionally secure. So we're looking for a range of less common lexical items with some awareness of style and collocation, but of course that comes along with other more basic vocabulary as well. So going back to our structure, main point 2. So my main point 1 was 62 words. It's quite long. If you wrote 4 main points like that, that's 250 words almost, and we have to include the introduction and conclusion. So perhaps main point 1 is a little on the long side. So our second main point in that paragraph could be shorter by 1 point, 1 fewer supporting point. But we still must include an example, which could be a simple one, could be part of an explanation or a reason, for example. And we still must include a contrast with large families. So doing both of these things will answer the question and give us a chance of a task achievement 7 and a band 7 overall. So what's the main point 2 in our structure is the second advantage. What could we write about? What kind of content can we have for the second advantage? Our first advantage was at the individual or family level. We talked about attention for each child. Our second advantage could be at a societal or community level. So for example, rising world population, concerns about sufficient resources. So that doing this gives our essay a wider scope. We've got 2 different levels at which we're analysing the issue. You don't have to do this for band 7, but it's showing lots of good qualities for a band 7 or higher. So let's look at our second body paragraph, the disadvantages. So we're going to follow the same paragraph structure as the first body paragraph. So topic sentence, this is about the disadvantages in this paragraph. And then we introduce disadvantage 1 of having a small family, add examples of other support points, include a contrast with positive features of a large family. So again, our focus is on the small family, but we're contrasting with a large family, but this time positive features because the disadvantages are for the small family. And we repeat the same structure for disadvantage 2. Alright. So let's think about ideas. How can we get some good ideas in brainstorming? So let's have a look here. Consider these tips and then brainstorm and plan the other body paragraph content. This is what I'd like you to do. Brainstorm topic vocabulary. So look at the words in the question, find synonyms and paraphrases. We have quite a simple question here, but here's a couple of ideas. The adjective increasing can be changed to growing. Rather than is the same as instead of. Think of natural collocations that you know. Pay attention to the needs of children. You can see they're quite simple, but actually they're used well is a complex and advanced skill. Look at some resources. Let's have a look at some resources. I've selected 3 resources which I have. Vocabulary for IELTS Unit 1, which is about growing up. IELTS Language Practice from Macmillan. Words and Phrases Unit 1 is about families. English Collocations in Use from Cambridge. Unit 19 is about families. Let me show you briefly those units. So this one is the last one, English Collocations in Use. You can see the words in bold are the collocations which are introduced in sentences, and then these are introduced in a table form. On the second page is exercises, so gap fills and matching exercises, and answer questions yourself. So that is English Collocations in Use. This is the other Cambridge book, Vocabulary for IELTS. Unit 1's about growing up. And we've got some similar ideas, matching and gap fill. Then all in an IELTS context. So, and the final one is from Macmillan's IELTS Language Practice. So this is Words and Phrases Unit 1, Family and Relationships. Okay, you can see some gap fills. So if you did all those units, you'd get a lot of ideas for natural collocations. Okay, let's go back to our presentation. So think about your life and your personal experiences. It's a good starting point. For this question, do you come from or do you have a large or small family? What are or were the good and bad aspects of your situation? Think about your life. So then you can make your personal points general. Here's an example. I was brought up in a family of 6, including 4 children. We had to learn how to share resources fairly, such as the use of toys. Now I'm going to make this point a general one. Those who grow up in large families often have to learn how to share resources fairly, such as the use of toys. So those words in bold are directly copied from my personal idea. Consider content on different levels. We looked at this before. The societal or global level, the individual, the family level, the local community, small group, business level. Shows a greater range of content. You can show off your vocabulary more. You can give a more developed answer. Evidence for task achievement 7, where you have to present, extend and support main ideas. Summary. What does the question require me to do? Write about at least 2 advantages and 2 disadvantages. Compare having a small family with having a big family. If you fail to do one or both, you have a risk of achieving task achievement 5, addresses the task only partially. So if you, for example, write only one disadvantage, there's a big chance that this will limit your grade for task achievement to 5. Your chance of getting 7 disappears. Focus. What's our focus for this question? We must compare having small families with large ones, but we need a greater focus on small families. The background sentence tells us this, increasing trend towards having smaller families. So I would not recommend here a similar amount of content on small and large families. This would mean too much focus on large families. We could end up producing too much content and not have enough time. But some other comparison questions do require a similar amount of content on both issues. How do we know that? We know that from reading and understanding the question literally and considering it over in depth. Essay structure. We followed a standard 2-body paragraph structure. This allowed us to easily choose the topics for the body paragraphs, advantages and disadvantages. Obviously it may not be that easy for other questions. Suggested body paragraph structure. Topic plus 2 main points. Each main point has 2 or 3 support points. And in this question, a main point introduces an advantage or a disadvantage. Support points include examples, contrast with large families. They must include those things in order to answer the question to a band 7 level. And I would suggest that you aim for 7 or 8 points in each body paragraph across 5 or 6 sentences. Aim to use a range of simple and advanced grammatical structures, simple vocabulary and collocations, a good range of cohesive devices. There we are. So your homework, should you choose to accept it, is to review this presentation and brainstorm and write a full answer to the question. So thank you very much for listening. That's me, that's my details again, and I wish you all the best with your IELTS preparation. Thank you.